My name is Anna, and I am 32 years 8 months ago. A woman knocked on my door on a Saturday morning and said 4 words that collapsed 20 years of carefully constructed peace. I am your mother. Just that. No letter. No warning. No gradual approach through a registry or a mutual contact or any of the careful systems that exist precisely to manage moments like this one. Just a woman. My door. 4 words. I had been making coffee. Saturday morning ritual. The good coffee, the slow pour, the particular quiet of a weekend morning before the world fully assembles itself. I was in my pajamas. My hair was not done. I had not prepared for this in any sense of the word prepared. I opened the door because I thought it was my neighbor returning a book. The woman standing there was in her 50s. Well-dressed. Dark hair going silver at the temples. Eyes that were, I registered this before I registered anything else, before I processed what she had said or what it meant, eyes that were shaped exactly like mine. I am your mother, she said. I looked at her for a long moment. My mother lives in Connecticut, I said. I spoke to her yesterday. Your adoptive mother, she said. I am your biological mother. My name is Diana. And I know this is, she stopped. Something moved across her face. I know this is not how this should happen. I know I should have another stop. I've been standing at the end of your street for 2 hours trying to make myself leave. And I couldn't leave. I looked at this woman. At her eyes that were shaped like mine. At the 2 hours she had apparently spent at the end of my street. Come in, I said. Not because I was ready. Not because I had processed what was happening or made a decision about how I felt. But because the coffee was getting cold and she had been standing outside for 2 hours and something in me, some instinct below conscious thought, recognized her before I did. She came in. I made her coffee. And my Saturday morning became something I would spend the next 8 months understanding. Let me tell you about growing up as Anna Chen Williams. The Chen was my adoptive family, second-generation Chinese American. Warm and large and full of the particular chaos of a household where multiple generations lived within driving distance and showed up unannounced and had opinions about everything including your life choices. The Williams was my biological name, kept by my adoptive parents as a middle name because they believed I should have access to my own history. I had been adopted at 6 weeks old. My adoptive parents, James and Susan Chin, had told me from the beginning. There was no revelation, no dramatic discovery. Just the simple, ordinary truth of a family that had chosen each other and been honest about the choosing. I had grown up secure. Loved. Part of something real. I had also grown up with a question. Not a consuming one, not the kind that kept me awake or defined my identity or required years of therapy to manage. Just a quiet, persistent background question, the kind that exists in the periphery of consciousness rather than the center. Who is she? Why? I had never pursued it. Partly because my adoptive family was enough, genuinely enough, not the managed contentment of someone who has decided to be satisfied, but the actual sufficiency of someone whose life contains what it needs. Partly because pursuing it felt like a question I wasn't sure I wanted answered. Some questions, once answered, cannot be unanswered. I had been living with the question quietly for 32 years. And then Diana had knocked on my door. And the question had answered itself. Whether I was ready or not. She sat at my kitchen table with her coffee and her careful posture and her eyes that were shaped like mine, and she told me the beginning of the story. She had been 22. Unmarried. A difficult situation with a man who had not stayed. A family that had not been supportive. A decision made from the particular desperation of someone who has run out of other options and is trying to choose the one that hurts her most and helps the baby most simultaneously. She had chosen adoption. She had not chosen to disappear. I always intended to find you, she said. When you were older. When you were ready. She stopped. When I was brave enough. What made you brave enough now? I said. She looked at her coffee. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in January, she said. Stage 2. Good prognosis. They caught it early. I'm responding well to treatment. But she looked up at me. It clarified things. The things I had been putting off for 20 years. I sat with that. A diagnosis. A door she had been standing outside for 2 hours. 20 years of intending and not being brave enough. You should have called, I said. Or written. You shouldn't have just appeared. I know, she said. I'm sorry. I was afraid that if I gave you warning you would say no. And I couldn't, she stopped. I couldn't hear no. You might still hear no, I said. I know, she said. I know that. I looked at this woman across my kitchen table. At the cancer diagnosis and the 2 hours at the end of my street and the 20 years of not being brave enough. I need time, I said. I need you to leave me your number and leave my house and give me time to think. She nodded immediately. No argument. She wrote her number on a piece of paper, actual paper, pen, the deliberate act of someone who wanted to leave something tangible. She stood up. At the door, she turned. I thought about you every day, she said. I want you to know that. Whatever you decide. I closed the door. I stood in my hallway in my pajamas with a piece of paper in my hand. And I tried to figure out what I actually felt. I called my adoptive mother first. Not because I needed permission. I was 32 years old. I did not need permission for anything. But because Susan Chin was my mother in every way that counted, and this was something she needed to know from me directly rather than some other way. She answered on the second ring. Anna. The particular frequency of a mother who can hear something in a single syllable. Mom, I said. Something happened this morning. I told her everything. The door. Diana. The coffee. The cancer diagnosis. The piece of paper with a number on it. Susan was quiet through all of it. When I finished, she said, Are you okay? I don't know yet, I said honestly. That's fair, she said. Mom. Anna. Her voice was steady, the steadiness of a woman who had prepared herself for this possibility for 32 years and had decided, long ago, how she would handle it when it arrived. You are my daughter. That is not a question, and it is not something that changes. Whatever you decide about this woman, whatever relationship you want or don't want, does not affect us. I know, I said. Do you, she said. Gently. I thought about it. I'm afraid, I said. That wanting to know her means something about us. It means you're human, Susan said. It means you have a question that deserves an answer. It has nothing to do with us. I pressed my hand flat against my kitchen counter. Thank you, I said. Call me later, she said. Whatever you decide. I called my best friend Rachel next. Rachel had known me for 15 years, had been present for every significant thing, had the particular quality of attention that meant she actually listened rather than waiting for her turn to speak. I told her everything. How do you feel? She said when I finished. Like the floor moved, I said. Like I was standing on something solid and it shifted slightly and everything looks the same, but nothing feels quite level. That makes sense, she said. Does it? Someone showed up at your door and said I am your mother, Rachel said. If the floor hadn't moved, I'd be worried about you. I almost laughed. What do I do? I said. What do you want to do? She said. I looked at the piece of paper on my kitchen table. Diana's number. Written in careful, deliberate handwriting, the handwriting of someone who wanted to leave something real. I want to know, I said. I've always wanted to know. I never let myself want it out loud. Then no, Rachel said simply. On your terms. In your time. But no. I called my therapist, Dr. Kim, on Monday. She had been seeing me for 3 years, not because I was in crisis, but because I had decided, at 29, that having someone to think with was a reasonable investment in a life I wanted to live well. I told her about Diana. How did it feel, she said, when you saw her eyes? I thought about it. Like recognition, I said. Before thought. Before decision. Something in me recognized her before I understood what I was seeing. What do you make of that? I don't know, I said. It frightens me a little. That recognition. Because I don't know what it means about identity. About who I am. Whether knowing her changes the answer to that question. Does it have to? Dr. Kim said. Doesn't it? You have been Anna Chin Williams for 32 years, she said. Asterisk, the Chin part, your family, your history. The people who raised you, that is not provisional. It does not become less real because Diana exists. She paused. She is not a replacement. She is an addition. A piece of the picture that was always missing. You are allowed to have the whole picture. I sat with that for a long time. The whole picture. I had been living with a partial picture for 32 years and had told myself it was complete. Maybe it was time to find out what the missing piece looked like. I called Diana on Wednesday. She answered on the first ring. Anna, she said. I want to meet, I said. Properly. Not at my door on a Saturday morning. Somewhere neutral. With time to talk. Yes, she said immediately. Anything. Whatever you want. And Diana. Yes. Don't show up unannounced again, I said. I understand why you did it. But if this is going to be anything, if we're going to be anything, it has to be on terms we both agree to. I understand, she said. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. Okay, I said. Saturday. There's a coffee place on Meridian Street. 11 o'clock. I'll be there, she said. I hung up. Sat in my apartment in the Wednesday evening quiet. Thought about Saturday. About the whole picture. About 32 years of a question I had never asked out loud. And felt, not resolution, not certainty. Something smaller and more honest than either of those things. Ready. For the first time. Ready. She was already there when I arrived. Of course she was. She had been standing at the end of my street for 2 hours the first time. Arriving early was apparently what Diana did when something mattered. I filed that away. It was information about who she was. She stood when she saw me come through the door. Didn't rush forward, gave me space to cross the room at my own pace, to sit down, to arrange myself before anything began. That too is information. She had brought flowers. Small ones, not the grand gesture of someone performing apology, but a small bunch of something simple that she set on the table between us, and then looked slightly uncertain about. I wasn't sure, she said. Whether flowers were. They're fine, I said. Thank you. We ordered coffee. The ritual of it again, the particular comfort of having something to do while something large takes shape. I want to ask you things, I said. A lot of things. And I need you to answer honestly even if the answers are hard. Yes, she said. Why did you choose my parents? I said. James and Susan specifically. She looked at the table for a moment. The agency showed me profiles, she said. Asterisk, photographs and letters from families who wanted to adopt. I read every one. She paused. Your parents' letter said, they said they wanted a child who would know their whole story. That they would keep whatever name she came with. That they understood adoption was not erasing a history but adding to one. She looked up at me. I chose them because of that. Because I wanted you to know you had a history before them. I thought about the Williams and Anachin Williams. The name they had kept. They kept my name, I said. I know, Diana said. The agency told me. Years later. Did you stay in contact with the agency? I said. For a while, she said. Until it became too painful. And then I stopped. And then I started again when she stopped. When you got sick, I said. Yes, she said. We sat with that. Tell me about the man, I said. My biological father. She looked at her coffee. His name was Daniel, she said. Asterisk, we were together for 2 years. He left when I told him I was pregnant. She paused. I haven't spoken to him since. I don't know where he is. Do you want me to find him? I said. That's entirely your choice, she said. He has no claim on that decision. I noted the precision of it. The clear boundary. Another piece of information. Tell me about your life, I said. After. She told me. The years after the adoption, the grief of them, the specific devastation of a decision made from love that still felt like loss. The therapy. The slow rebuilding. The career. She was an architect, had been for 20 years, the kind of work that required both precision and imagination. The marriage at 30, a good one, she said, to a man named Robert who knew about me from the beginning and had always supported finding me. He's outside, she said. In the car. I didn't want to overwhelm you, but he insisted on driving me. I thought about a man sitting in a car around the corner while his wife met the daughter she had given away 32 years ago. He sounds like a good person, I said. He is, she said. The best person I know. Do you have other children? I said. 2, she said. A son, Marcus, 28. A daughter, Lily, 25. She paused. They know about you. They've always known. I sat with that. A brother. A sister. People who knew I existed and had grown up knowing. How did they? I started. They want to meet you, Diana said. If you ever want that. There's no pressure. But I want you to know the door is open. I looked at this woman across the coffee shop table. At the architect who had chosen my parents from a letter about keeping names. Who had a husband in a car around the corner. Who had 2 children who knew about me. At the eyes that were shaped like mine. I need time, I said. With you first. Before anyone else. Can we do this slowly? As slowly as you need, she said. I have been waiting 32 years. I can wait a little longer. 6 months of Saturdays. That was what Diana and I built, a standing Saturday coffee, alternating between my neighborhood and hers, the slow, careful accumulation of a relationship that had no template and therefore had to be built from scratch. It was imperfect. Some Saturdays were easy, warm, genuinely easy, the conversation flowing the way it does between people who find each other naturally interesting. We were both visual thinkers. Both made things with our hands, her architecture, my graphic design. Both had the specific humor of people who had learned to find ordinary things absurd. Some Saturdays were harder. The Saturday I asked why she hadn't tried sooner, before the diagnosis, before the urgency of illness. She answered honestly, fear. The specific fear of rejection from someone whose rejection she felt she had no right to protest. I listened. I didn't soften it for her, but I heard it. The Saturday, she asked about my childhood, wanting details, the particular hunger of someone filling in 32 years of blank space. I told her. Some of it was easy to tell. Some of it, the good parts, the warm family chaos of the Chens, the front row seats and the camera ready and the parents who had never once made me feel like anything other than completely theirs, was harder to tell. Not because it was painful, because it was beautiful. And beauty, in that context, was complicated. They were good, I told her. They were really good. I know, she said. I chose carefully. I introduced Diana to Susan in October. This had been my idea, not Diana's, not Susan's. Mine. Because I had decided that keeping the 2 parts of my life separate was a kind of dishonesty I was no longer willing to maintain. We met at a restaurant. Neutral territory. All 3 of us slightly nervous in ways we handled differently, Susan with her characteristic directness, Diana with her careful posture, me with the particular focused calm of someone managing something significant. They shook hands. Looked at each other. 2 women who had each, in their different ways, been my mother. Susan said, "Thank you for choosing us." Diana's eyes filled. "Thank you for taking care of her," she said. I sat between them and felt something I didn't have a word for, the particular emotion of a moment that is both complete and impossible, that contains everything and costs something at the same time. My father, James, squeezed my hand under the table. I squeezed back. Marcus called in November. Diana's son. My biological brother, 28, an engineer, apparently the person in the family who dealt with things by calling them directly rather than waiting for the right moment. "Hi," he said when I answered. "This is Marcus. Diana's son." He stopped. I don't know what word to use. "Brother works," I said. "If you want it to." A pause. Then, "Yeah. Okay. Brother." We talked for an hour. He was funny. Direct. Had inherited Diana's precision and applied it to engineering rather than architecture. He had grown up knowing about me, had always known, had apparently asked Diana regularly throughout his childhood when they were going to find me. She wasn't ready, he said. For a long time she wasn't ready. "I know," I said. "Are you angry about that?" he said. Direct. I thought about it honestly. "Less than I expected to be," I said. "I understand fear." I understand putting things off because the alternative is too much to face. I paused. I'm glad she found me when she did. Me too, he said. Marcus. Yeah. Thank you for calling, I said. It helps. That you called first. Of course, he said. 2 words. Simple. The words of someone for whom reaching out was simply what you did when someone mattered. I liked him immediately. 1 year after the door. My life looked different from the outside. Felt different from the inside. Which is the only combination that counts. Diana was in remission. The treatment had worked. The doctors used words like excellent response and strong prognosis and monitoring going forward that translated, in practical terms, to Diana being at my kitchen table on a Sunday morning drinking coffee and talking about a building she was designing with the particular animated focus of someone who loves their work. I watched her talk and thought about the Saturday morning a year ago when she had knocked on my door. About the 2 hours she had spent at the end of my street. About the piece of paper with her number on it. You're staring, she said without looking up from her sketchbook. You have my eyes, I said. She looked up. You have my eyes, she corrected. I smiled. Marcus visited in February. He was exactly what the phone call had suggested: funny, direct, completely uninterested in performing anything. He showed up with his girlfriend Priya and the easy manner of someone who had decided I was family before he met me and was simply confirming the decision in person. Priya hugged me at the door. He's talked about you for months, she said. It's honestly been a lot. Hey, Marcus said. It's sweet, she said. I said it was a lot, not that it was bad. I laughed. The real kind. We spent the weekend doing ordinary things: dinner, a walk, a bad film we all watched on my couch and provided commentary for. The particular ease of people who find each other naturally. At the end of the weekend, Marcus hugged me goodbye at the door. Same time next month, he said. Yes, I said. Lily, Diana's younger daughter, my biological sister, took longer. Not from hostility. From the particular caution of someone who loved Diana and had watched her carry the weight of me for 28 years and wanted to be sure before she invested. I respected that. We started with texts. Then calls. Then, in March, a lunch, just the 2 of us, without Diana, which had been Lily's suggestion and which I had immediately agreed to because meeting someone without the weight of the person who connects you is sometimes the only way to meet them honestly. She was quieter than Marcus. Observant. The kind of person who watches carefully before deciding. She watched me carefully over lunch. At the end, she said, You're not what I expected. What did you expect? I said. I don't know, she said. Someone angrier, maybe. Someone who wanted something. I don't want anything, I said. Except to know. And to be known. She looked at me for a moment. That's all. That's everything, I said. She nodded slowly. Okay, she said. I can work with that. Susan and Diana had lunch alone in April. I had not arranged it. They had arranged it themselves, which was the part that surprised me. Susan had called Diana. Diana had said yes immediately. They had met at a restaurant and talked for 2 hours, and neither of them told me exactly what was said. What Susan told me was, she loves you. She's always loved you. It's just taken her a long time to be brave enough to show it. What Diana told me was, your mother is extraordinary. You are very lucky. And so am I. I sat with both of those things. With the image of 2 women who had each claimed me in their different ways, at their different times, sitting across a table and deciding, apparently, that there was enough room for both of them. There was enough room. There had always been enough room. I had just needed to find out. I want to say something to you. If you were adopted, if you have lived with the background question, the quiet, persistent wondering, the thing you have never let yourself want out loud, you are allowed to want it. You are allowed to find out. It does not mean the family that raised you is not enough. It does not mean the love they gave you is incomplete or conditional or less than real. It means you are a whole person with a whole history. And whole people deserve to know their whole story. The family that chose you, that is real. The family that made you, that is also real. Both things. Simultaneously. Without one canceling the other. You are allowed to have the whole picture. All the pieces. The Chin and the Williams. The mother who chose your parents from a letter about keeping names. The mother who kept the name. Both of them yours. All of it yours. Go find out what the missing pieces look like. You deserve the whole picture. You always did. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Were you adopted? Or do you have a story about finding where you come from? Share in the comments. I read every single one. Tell me where you are watching from. I love knowing how far these stories reach. Until next time, you deserve the whole picture. Go find it.